aggregated tables in Power Query, SQL, and DAX. That's Power BI Desktop. So I will start by explaining what aggregated table is for us. And I would like to say that if you have any question while I'm explaining, please just note down your questions and there will be room for that. Now, in data analytics, whenever you hear about aggregated table, or whenever you want to create an aggregated table, what they are basically telling you to do is to create a summarized table. So an aggregated table summarizes data by grouping it based on specific columns and applying aggregated functions like sum, average, count, minimum, maximum. Now, it is important for you to note that aggregated tables work with aggregated functions as stated in the slide. So just think about it in this way, that if you have a large set of data, maybe a daily report that has a high level of granularity, and what your stakeholders is expected to see, they're not so much interested in in the granularity. Rather, what they're more concerned about is to see the summarized data, so that they can easily make decisions. And one of the ways to do that is to use aggregated table. So you are summarizing the data, you are compressing it in such a way that the owner of the report or the stakeholder can easily understand what is going on in the data set. It helps to analyze large data sets by grouping rows based on one or more columns. Now, very important to note that whenever you are creating an aggregated table, you need to take note of your columns. There must be a categorical columns whereby you will most likely group your data on. It is a requirement for you to be able to use aggregated tables. So you need to understand the columns in your data set. Remember, we were taught about data profiling, how that you need to understand your data. So in the concept of understanding your data, you understand categorical columns so that you can be able to aggregate your table on the basis of those columns. Now, another important thing you need to note is that when aggregating table, the group by clause is commonly used to aggregate your table. I will repeat again, the group by clause is commonly used to aggregate your table in Power BI, SQL, and in Power Query. In Power BI, SQL, we use the group by clause. Even in Python, the group by clause basically goes in line with aggregated table. And it's very important for you to note that. And one of the things that the group by clause helps you to do is to summarize your data efficiently, identify trends and patterns, and it also helps you to enhance your report. And the logic behind it is that when you have a large data set and you use your aggregated table using the group by clause, you can be able to compress those data and you can be able to understand what the data is saying. Another thing I would also like to say is that, when it comes to enhancing reports and you want to present your report in Power BI Desktop, you're creating your report in Power BI Desktop, or you are creating a dashboard, when your data set is being summarized, you can easily create a report and it will allow your report to perform in a very efficient way. So let's talk about the benefit of aggregated tables. But before going to that, look at the pictures I have on my slide here. We have a very good examples of how aggregated table works. You can see that in the data set, we have two columns, basically
Hello, Isaiah, we cannot hear you.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the last thing you hear?
We're talking about the example.
Okay, so I'm still on the. I hope you cannot see my screen.
Yes,
I hope we cannot see my
You
screen.
can see your
Okay,
screen.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So now I was saying that in the example we have here, we have our data sets and we have the aggregated table beside it. And looking at this data set, there are two things I really want you to take note of. The first thing is the categorical column. The second thing is the what? Is the numerical column, which should be our metric. So you can see that this data set is grouped into what? Into A and B. So, like I said before, for aggregated table to work very well, you need to have a column whereby you can group your data set. And many times that column is usually a categorical column, like we see in this example. Now, it could also be in forms of a month, if you are dealing with a monthly report or yearly report. Just try and identify those columns. So we see here that when the data set has been aggregated, we can see that it's being grouped into what? Into two categories. We have the summarized table, we have A and B. And if you look at this table, by the time you had 3 plus 1, it gives you 4. You had 2 plus 3, it gives you 5. Exactly, this is the way the aggregated table works. Now, you may not really appreciate this now, but just imagine somewhere in your mind that if you are dealing with large set of data and you want to summarize it, and you want to see what is going on in the data set, you can't be strolling up and down. Applying group by aggregated tables will help you to easily understand the data set better in a very comprehensive way. Now, let's talk about the benefit of aggregated table. Faster query performance. So it recomputes summaries, reduce processing time. So it helps you to compress, to summarize your data. And when your data set, a large data set is being summarized, what you then end up having is you have your query performing in a very efficient way. Your query will perform in a very efficient way. Another thing you must also take note of is that it reduces the data volume. It stores summarized data, lowering storage cost. So one of the important things you need to take note of whenever you are using, one of the benefits rather, whenever you are using aggregated table is that it helps you in terms of your storage cost. Then it optimizes dashboard and report performance. I've explained this before, that as a Power BI developer, always have it in your mind that you have a responsibility to ensure that your report is performing efficiently. Your report is performing in it's very responsive whenever the stakeholder wants to see it. Then we have what we call, enhances decision making such that you can quickly see high-level insight for quick analysis. It improves scalability and it also supports hierarchical analysis. So I'm going to start showing us now how we can create aggregated table. I will start with what? With Power Query. But before I go on, I want to ask, I hope everything I've said so far is really clear to us.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your response, please. I will appreciate your prompt response. All right, so look at this example we have here. Now, the first example we have on our slide there is creating an aggregated table in Power Query. So you can see that we have our data set here. The branch of our data set, we have other dates, we have products, we have customer key, and we have quantity, other quantity. Now, using the group by in Power Query, you see that it helps us to compress our data set in this output. So what do we have here? We have the categorical columns, which is the product key. Then we rename the column by giving it total quantity. So that means that for what we are concerned in this data set, we are trying to obtain the total quantity for the report. And the operations, which is the aggregated functions that is being used here, is sum, and it's being performed on the column, and the column in which this is being performed is what? Is order quantity. So I'm going to, that's example. So I'm going to be navigating through the slide and the practical section. Now, let me also show you this example. Now, if you check this slide here, we have an option called advanced option. So if I flip to the next slide, you see the advanced option. Now, in this advanced option, that way we can aggregate our table on the basis of two categories. The first categories we have here is what? Is the product key. The second category we have here is what? Is the customer key. And then we have our total quantity. Then we have our aggregated functions, and the column. We select the column in which you want to perform the aggregated function on. So you can add as many columns you want to aggregate. You can also add as many columns you want to aggregate. So let's go to the practical section and see how this works in Power Query. So I'm going to be using this data set. Let me connect to my SQL server. So I'm going to be using this data set so that will show us how it works, and then I will import it into Power BI. So look at this data set. So this is a AWS fact table, and so what we'll be doing on this data set is that we'll be summarizing them. I may have to, just a minute, please. I may have to put off my camera because the light just went off. Okay. So let me share again. Okay, can we all see my screen? Can we all see my screen?
Yes,
Hello?
yes.
All right, thank you very much. So look at this data set.
Yes.
So we have, this is more like a daily report. We have the order date, we have the stock date, we have the order, we have the product category. So let's import this data set into our Power BI and let's see how it works. So I'm going to open our Power BI and then I'm going to import this data set from my SQL server. Then we will aggregate it there. So I'll click on blank report here and import from. Since I'm importing from SQL server, so I'm using this import from SQL server. So I will have to specify my the server name and also the database option. To get the server name, I can easily just come here. Let me disconnect and connect this back so that I can copy the server name. So this is the server name here. So I just need to copy this and then paste it here. So I have a database which I have created there. It's called SSIS demo. So I'm going to use, that is where my data set is. Let me show you that also. So if I come to my database here and I click on SSIS demo, the tables there, you definitely see the name of this table there, AWS fact table, AWS fact table, AWS fact, which is this. So I've entered my server name and I've also entered my my database name, so I can connect by clicking OK. So when I click OK, it will display all the tables under my SSIS demo. So I can click the name of the table here and I click transform data. So once I click transform data, it will load the data into my Power Query editor. Then I can do all the transformation I needed to do there. Now, this is the data set we have. Now, so let's try and just do a few things on this data set. Remember, the first thing you need to do a check is that you need to be sure that all the data types are intact and are correct. And if you look through, it seems that Power BI has been able to help us to detect that correctly. So now in this data set, now let's say that we want to what? Aggregate this particular data set on the basis of our sales amount. We want to aggregate them on the basis of, let's use the what? The order line and okay, I would prefer to use year, the order year. Remember that we were told how to use the what? The time function. So what I will do is that I'll first add a column here. In adding a column, I will click on this and I'll come to time here and I will just click on time, click on date rather, sorry, date, and I'll click year. So what this will do is that it's going to generate the year for this particular column or that order date. So when I click on the year, it has generated the year for that word, for that data set, and it looks okay. So I can just do a quick check here to be sure, to load more to be sure if all the data sets. So for this year, we have 2015, 2016, and 2017. That seems okay. Now, I always like to do something. I like to create a duplicate so that I can easily compare the initial table I loaded and with the aggregated table. So I can duplicate this table and I can then rename it. I'll rename it by calling it, let me just call it sales aggregate. So that's the name of the table. Now that I want to perform so I'll be performing my aggregation on this on this sales aggregate. So what I need to do is just to come to to click on the transform here. Under the transform, you will see what we call group by. The transform menu, you click the transform tab, just click on the transform and you see the group by. Once I click on the group by, then a dialog board display whereby I can then. Hello.
It seems your screen is slower than your voice.
Oh.
So can you stop sharing and share again?
Okay. Let me just log out and log in back. I think that will be better.
Okay, please do that in a minute, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
It's actually raining heavily. Yeah, it just started raining. So I guess that's what's really Okay, so let's go back to where we stopped from. All right, so I'm going to cancel this and I'm going to continue from here. So we have our data sets here, which I rename as sales aggregates, because so what I just did is to duplicate this and rename it so that we can perform our aggregation table here. So if I come to group by here, if I click on the group by, a dialog box pop up, the group by dialog box. So I can then select or perform the aggregation I want to do just by selecting. Now, the first thing we have is the basic, we have the advanced. So under the basic, I can select a particular column. Let's say I want to aggregate on the basis of the what? The product category key. I will just select it. Now, then we have new column name. The new column name simply means that since we are aggregating our table, a new column is going to be generated in which the aggregation will be performed on. So I can then type the name of the new column in this in this small dialog box. So let me call it total sales. Now, the operation I want to perform, I'm summing it, summation, sum. So I use the sum function, the sum aggregation function. Now, on the column, so I will be using our sales amount. So what this implies is that for every product category key, I want to get their total sales. I want to sum it up, and I want Power BI to group it by giving me the unique category key with their with their sales, with their total sales, by summing their sales amount. So if I click OK, now this is what we have. So for all the product category, we have category 1 to 4, 3, 4, 1, 2. And for product category key 3, the total summation of the sales in that data set is what we have here. The same thing applies for 4, for 1, and for 2. So let me go back and also modify it and perform aggregation on the basis of 2 categories. So I come to this place, I can just easily click here, my settings here, and just modify it. So once I just click, it gives me the group by options again. So let's click advanced. Under the advanced, so I can add another grouping. So I click on add grouping. This time around, I'm going to use what I call my order line. So I still have my total sales. So total sale, the operation that will be performed is sum and the sales amount. However, in this case, I am grouping on the basis of 2 categories, the product category key and the on the other line. So let me also add another aggregation here. Let's say we want to find the overall average for each of overall average for both of these 2 categories, the product category key and the other line item. So I come to this place and I select the average function, and then I still select my sales amount. Now, mind you, I can also use unit price on the basis of what you are trying to compute, but let's just use sales amount, and I click OK. So if I click OK, so what I have here is that I have at every level of product category key 4 with order line 300. This is the summation of the total sales I have there, and this is this is the average. The same also goes for product category key 3 with order line item 200. So this is the sum, the total sales, and also this is the average. Now, as you can see here, so everything we have here in this table is being summarized from from the initial table we have here. So this gives us a summary of what we initially have in our data set. So I can easily compute it, relate with it, you know, I can easily understand what is going on in data set. Now, let me also add a trick. Let me modify this and let me change this to what? To the year which we generated, the year, and I click what? OK. If I click OK, so for year 2016, with order line 400, this is my total sales, and this is my what? Overall average. The same thing goes for 2017. The other line is what? 100. The total sale is this, and the overall average is this. Now, this helps me to understand better what is going on in what? In my initial what? Fact table, which I have here. And that is what aggregation does. Remember, one of the things we said is that it compresses, it consolidates your data set, it summarizes it, such that whenever stakeholders see this, the stakeholder can easily, you know, understand, you know, your sales report and what is going on in the data set. I saw someone raising up his hand. I don't know if you have a question.
Yeah, sorry, don't worry. I was thinking there is no 2015 before, but I've seen it. Don't worry, I've seen it. Because I didn't see 2015 in the. Oh yeah, I've seen it. Don't worry.
All right, thank you very much, sir. So, does anybody have any question as regards to what I just did now? Okay, Mr. Gbenga.
Okay, thank you. Just to add to what Isaiah has discussed, because somebody said he was lost. That's Michael. We are showing you guys 3 ways of creating aggregated tables and the benefit of aggregated table. Isaiah has explained in his slide that aggregated table is for compressing the data. You don't want to bring in the whole data the way it is granular. Or let's say you brought in the data and now you see that you need to compress it. You need to change it to a summarized format. That's the reason for this aggregation. And in Power Query, one of the ways to do this is what? Is by using GROUPBY. And he has showed you a lot of ways you can do your GROUPBY by, you choose the column that you're grouping it by first, which is usually categorical columns, which contains categorical information rather in the columns. Then there are some other ones that the other columns that you can now perform the aggregation. So look at what he did here. He picked the year, the other line item, right? That's the grouping. And for the aggregation, it's total sales and average sales. Is it clear or not clear to anyone? Michael, is it clear to you now?
It's clear.
Michael, is it clear to you now?
Yes, I understand what you're saying, but a demonstration would have made better sense because I'm not seeing what you're saying.
That means you have to go and watch the video because I'm seeing it clearly and it's very clear to me. Yeah.
All right then. Thank you.
This is just 1 out of 3 that we've done, and we still have 2 to go, so we don't have time. You can log out and log in back. Maybe it's the network. Abdullah.
Let me try that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to ask, I don't know if you're going to do it as the class progresses.
Your voice is somehow is echoing somehow. Can you adjust your audio?
Can you guys hear me?
Better now. Yeah.
Okay. I was saying that I don't know if he's still going to do it. Good job, Isaiah. Can we say to further optimize this? Can we say that initial query, can we like turn it into a staging query? Then we can just reference this query that we are currently working on. Is that something that will actually make sense?
That question is not clear. Can you reframe it?
Yes. So I'm referencing what we have done in the previous classes, right?
Yeah.
The first query he did before duplicating it, can we make it to become a staging query? Hence, where you disable that load, right? Then you can just we cannot reference it. Is it referencing? Yes.
Okay, I get what you're saying. So I get what you're saying. So Isaiah
Isaiah
could have just aggregated on the original table. Do you understand, sir? But because he wanted to just show you guys how the aggregated table will look like and how the original table looks like, that is why he duplicated it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
So there's no need. So what he's doing here per se is not. It does not relate to helper tables or helper queries. Do
Okay,
you
okay, no
understand?
problem.
But if something like that happens here, it will not import in the facts, the AW fact sales facts into Power BI desktop. It won't again. It will just import only the aggregated one. And by the virtue of the dependency, when it refreshes that one, even though it's not loading in that one, it will still refresh. Is that clear?
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Okay. Any other person? Isaiah, please go ahead, please.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the slide, and so now we've done grouping and aggregation using what? Power Query. Now the next thing we also need to check, we need to look at how it works in SQL. Now I would like to say that even while this class is not SQL, it's just important for us to also see how this works, so that by the time we use our direct query mode, we can easily copy the SQL script and then use it to import the aggregated table. So if I come to the SQL here, already this is my data set. I have the column here, I have the order line. Now I have my dates here, order date. So I can select order date. However, from the order date here, what I'm only interested in is I'm interested in the year. So I can use the year function to just extract the year out. So I will have to rename it year as, let me just put it as year. You just to what? Column, to rename the column. That's the first thing I need there. Then the next thing we will need our order line. So I can type in my order line item here. Order line item. Then followed by something is wrong here. Order line. Okay, followed by now our metrics. So our sales amount. Sales amount. Now, however, in this column, on the sales amount, remember, I will need to apply the function I needed to compute. So the function I'm using is the sum. So I'm going to put here sum, open bracket and close the bracket. So I can also rename this as, let me call it total sales. So I can continue from this second line, from the name of my table, AW sales facts. Then I will use my group by function. So if I run this is going to give me an error. This will definitely give me an error. Let me show us. If I run this now, it's going to give me an error, which means that even if you copy this query straight to your SQL, it will not work. So now this is where the group by functions comes in. Since we are grouping on the basis of this column, which is here, and this other line, we then apply our group by function. So group by. So I can just copy it here, comma, and then copy my order line item here also. So if I run this, it's going to give me the results. Now this is the results. So I have aggregated this table on the basis of the year, the order line. So for each year 2016, at order line 400, this is actually the total sales. For 2017, at every level of order line 100, this is actually the total sales. Now, I can also do for the average sales by coming to this place. I just need to modify this query, and I type average of my what? Sales amount. So I can, if I run this, let me show you something. If I run this, sorry, average, something is wrong here. My
Average
average.
as you didn't do that.
Okay.
No, the average is
give it a name.
AVG. The average is AVG, not
Oh,
average.
AVG. Okay, thank you.
AVG, not average.
Now, if I run this, the reason why I want to, if I run this, you will see that
You not put as average sales amount as. You give it a name.
okay, as
No.
AVG.
So it's missing an S. It's missing
Okay.
an S. The sales, yeah.
Oh, sales. Thank you very much. Sales amount. Yeah. So, as let me call it. Let me just call it average sales. So when we get to SQL, I'm sure some of these things will be explained to us better. So if you run this also, so now we have for the what? For the year, for our order line. So for every year, 2016 at order line 400, these are total sales, and these are average sales. So what we need to do is that we just need to take note of this query. You can just copy this. So let's go back to our Power BI. Now I'm going to import another table here. Just I'm going to import another table. So I'll come to home, new sources. I'll still go through my SQL server. So I will type the server name. Sorry, I may have to disconnect this and connect just to get the server name. So the server name is this. So I will copy this here. Then my database is SSIS_demo. So I'm going to use direct query mode to bring in this, and I will paste the SQL statement here that we have here. This, let me run it again. I'm going to run this. So I'll just copy this since it works perfectly here, just to import it. And I'll paste it here. So once I paste it here, I can click OK. Now this is the data. This is just the summary of the data. And I can click OK. It looks good. I click OK. So I can then rename it. Let me just name it Sales Aggregate 2, just to differentiate it from the first one we did. So now what we have here is that what we've done here basically is that we've written an SQL query here that aggregated our data. So instead of us going to Power BI to start aggregating it, we can just copy. We just copy the what? We just copy this what? This SQL query. SQL script we've written here, we just copy it and we paste it, and we paste it, and it gives us what? It gives us these results. So here already our data set has been what? Has been aggregated right from the source. So what really helps us to achieve this is the fact that we have a what? A query written here that has aggregated it, and we just what? We use our what? Our direct query mode to import the data set, and it automatically what? Gives us the what? The aggregated version of the what? Of the data set. So to use the SQL query to aggregate your data, you just have to understand a bit of SQL and know how it works. Like Mr. Benga said, we also cover SQL maybe after Power BI, and I'm so sure that some of these things that I did there will be clear to us better by the time we start the SQL query. But let me ask, is this also clear? Or should I go over it again?
You can't go over it again, Isaiah. Maybe they have to go and watch.
Okay. So now let's
Because
talk
we
about
only
the
have
third.
17 minutes more to go.
Okay, so let's talk about the third one using our Power
Okay.
BI desktop.
Yeah, well done, Isaiah. Before you go ahead, let me just do a recap of what Isaiah said. Isaiah has showed you the first method. The first one, he brought in the data the way it is without changing anything from the source. And he did the aggregation right inside of Power Query using GROUPBY. This second method now, he wrote the query from the source itself, right? So instead of bringing the entire data set like the first method, he already wrote query that we aggregate the data from the source. So that is what the second example is saying. Is there any question now before Isaiah goes to the last one? Any question? Isaiah, please go ahead.
Okay, so the third one is using the DAX formula. If you can see my screen clearly, I know it's not in presentation mode. We have two ways in which you can also achieve that using the DAX. You can use the normal group by, and I also added this summarize. They both perform the same thing, and we have a very good example of how it works here. So what we are going to do now is that we are going to go to our Power BI desktop, and we will try these two, we will compute them, and we will see how it works. They practically work the same way. It's just that the DAX formula, the syntax, is just different, but basically they will give you the same the same results. So I'm going to come to our data set here. So we have our original table here, which is AW. So let's load this three table, but my focus will most likely be the first one I loaded here. So if I come here and I click close and apply, so I go to so I'm waiting for the data set to load. Why is it taking this long?
Maybe you should have loaded only the one you are using.
Okay. It's almost done. All right. So if I click on the data sheet view here, the table view, so we will see our, so these are our AW salesforce table, and these are the two. So let's focus on this only. So what I need to do is just to, remember that we are creating an aggregated table. So it's a table we are creating. So what you need to do first is when you click on your data, the data set here, just click on new table. So I click on new table, and then Power BI then asks me to enter the DAX formula, which I want to use to generate the new table. So I'm going to name, so the first thing we have here is the table name. So I'm going to name the table sales aggregate, sales aggregate 3. Then I'm going to, let's start using the group by. So the first function I'll use is the group by. Group by.
I think your screen
then,
has gone blank.
Oh, my screen has gone blank.
Please go ahead. Your screen is not blank. Please go ahead, please.
Okay, so the first thing I will have to do here is to select, just type in the name of the table, which is AW salesforce table. So I'm going to type here AW under sales. Then I'm going to press enter. I always like everything to be aligned. Then I'll have to specify the columns, the categorical columns. So the first one I have there is I think I have the year. So let me put a comma here. Yeah, then followed by the second column, which is the year. AW says here, please note this. So that means this is the table name and this is the what, the reference column, comma, then followed by, I'll have to type the other line. So I have the other line here, put a comma. Then, so I can now start generating the columns I want to write DAX formula functions for the column. So the first column I have is the total sales. So I just need to open an inverted comma, type total sales, close the inverted comma, then followed by, so I will use a function here called SUMX. SUMX with the group by, then I'll have to add the current. So this current group, so what the current group does is that it's going to summarize every section of my categorical variable. Then I'll have to specify the column. So I'll put a comma again, then specify the column. So the column where I want to perform the calculation on, which is the sales amount. So I type in here sales. So I have it here, AW sales amount. Then I close the brackets. So that's the first. So I can put a comma again. Then I press Shift Enter to continue computing for what? For the average also. So I have my average sales, comma, the same SUMX, open brackets, current group, comma, sorry, this should be average X, not SUMX. It's average because we are computing the average, comma, then followed by the same table we have here. So AW underscore sales. So we should have it amount. Yeah. Then I can then close the bracket. Now, since I'm done, remember I opened the bracket here. I just need to close it and press enter. So if I press enter, now I have my aggregated table here. So Power BI using the DAX function, it has computed. So if you check the result I have here, the result I have here and the result I have here, they're almost the same. Okay. Yeah. The result I have here and the result I have here also, they're almost the same. The result I have there. So it works similarly. So I have aggregated this table using what? A DAX formula by writing the functions here using the group by. Now, so I'm going to do another one using summarize, and it's going to give me the same result. So I'll still come back. So once I'm done, so let me click on this table, and let's use the summarize. So I come here again. I click on aggregated table, and I'm going to call this sales aggregate 4, just so that we can understand the difference. I mean, in terms of description now. So I will use what I call summarize, open bracket. In the same way, I'll select the name of the table first, AW sales. I always like my code to be in the same alignment. Then the next thing you need to select is the name of the column. So I have my AW sales here. Sorry, I need to put a comma here. AW sales. Where is the year? Okay, this is it. That's the first categorical column. The second one will be AW sales order line, which is this order line item. Put a comma. Then, so what I need to do here is to generate formula to compute formula for my column. So I'm going to type here total sales, just the same way we did the first one. total sales, put a comma. Now, this time around, since I'm using the summarize, I will just use a function called sum, open brackets. Then what am I summing? I'm solving the sales amount. I'll just close the bracket, then comma, then press enter again for the average. Now, the difference between this and that is we use the sum x. I will now use another parameter here called current group. But here it's just the normal sum. So we are summing the sales amount on the basis of these categories we have here. The year and the other line. So average sales comma. So we use the average function, and then we select our sales amount and we close the brackets. Then since we open the bracket here once, so we have to close it again. So I just like to close it here. So we can then press enter and see what the result will give us. So you can see here also, we have aggregated our table using using the same function. So the summarize and the dark. So if you compare these two results, you can see most likely it gives us the same output. The same output. Now, I think for this function, for using summarize, you can have the options of using many functions, many aggregated functions you want to use for your data set. However, I don't think we have that option for the group by. I think it's only sum and average we have, but I stand to be corrected. So that is just basically how to write the formula. So the formula is not hard. The first you need to do here is select the table, the name of the table, which is this. Then we have the first thing we have here is the first categorical columns we have, which is here, followed by the second categorical column, which is other line. Then the new generated column, which is the total sales. We use sum x, then we use this parameter called current group by, and we specify the name of the column, which is our sales amount, where we want to sum. The same thing goes for this and this. Now, if you check this also, is the same manner. The only difference is that we only have one parameter. It's just our normal sum function. Select sum, and we compute the formula, and it gives us the same result. So that is how it works for DAX. I don't know if we have any question about this. Let's
thank you very much, Isaiah. Very, very wonderful class. The only thing that I learned new today, sincerely, is that current group. It's very interesting. And I also read online that the current group is only used within group by, and you can't use it outside of the group by when you're writing the group by expression. So I learned something new. Thank you.
Yes, sir. It's a privilege.
Mr. Any addition?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say the same, that the current group by, I was even arguing with another student that is here with me that I don't think I've ever heard anything current group by before. So
even
thank you,
me, current group. But I thought just said what's it called is easy. The summarize is easy.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, actually, I think I've not heard of the current group by two before. So I think at least we are all learning. So that's good.
Yeah,
but I think the summarize function is just really straightforward. Yeah, but it's good that we can explore more options and so.
Yeah. Interesting. Anybody, any question? Okay, if there are no questions, that means we are keeping to time. And I like that Isaiah kept to time. Thank you so much for the class. So if there are no questions, every other person can go while my captains still stay for a little while. Thank you, everyone. See you next week, Sunday. We are going to be talking about surrogate key and natural keys in determining your primary key. Thank you, everyone. No attendance till April.
Thank you, Isaiah. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.